Hello, this is Nicole Dominguez, and today I'm going to be reading the introductory terms for phonetics and phonology. So, let's start. First, I'm going to start with language. And language is a system of conventional spoken, manual sign, or written symbols by means which human beings, as members of a social group and participants in its culture, express themselves. The function of language include communication, the expression of identity, play, imaginative expression, and emotional release. Linguistics, the scientific study of language. The word was first used in the middle of the 19th century to emphasize the difference between a narrow approach to the study of language that was then developing and the more traditional approach of philology and phonetics, which is the study of speech sounds and their physiological production and acoustic qualities. It deals with the configurations of the vocal tract used to produce speech sounds, which is articulatory phonetics, and acoustic properties of speech sounds, which is acoustic phonetics, and the manner of combining sounds so as to make syllables, words, and sentences, linguistics, phonetics, and phonology, which is the study of sound patterns that occur within languages. And then we have phoneme, which is in linguistics the smallest unit of speech distinguishing one word or word element from another to the element, for example, as the element P in tap, which separates the word from tap, tag, and ten. And now we're going to read the allophone, which is one of the phonetically distinct variants of phoneme. The occurrence of one allophone rather than another usually determined by its position in the word, if it's initial, final, or medial, etc., or by its phonetic environment. And now I'm going to read the minimal pairs, which are two words that sound almost the same, however, they have one sound that is different. For example, red, rod, and lot. And now I'm going to read homophones. Is a word that is pronounced the same as another word, but it has a different meaning or spelling or both. Example, so and so, which is like SOW and SEW. And now I'm going to read homograph, which is a word that is spelled the same as another word, but it has a different meaning. Example, bow, which the meaning is front of a ship, or bow, which the meaning is a lip, made in a string or ribbon. Or ribbon. Now I'm going to read um, the diagram, which is a pair of characters such as SH used in the orthography of a language to write either a single phoneme, distinct sound, or sequence of phonemes that does not correspond um, to the normal values of two characters combined. And the alphabet, which is a set of graphs or characters used to represent the phonemic structure of a language. In most alphabets, the characters are arranged in a definite order or sequence. And the phonetic alphabet, which is a spelling alphabet set of words used instead of letters in oral communication. And now articulators, passive versus active. Articulators are the organs of physiological structures that produce speech sounds. Lips, teeth, alveolar ridge, hard palate, and then the soft palate, the velum, the uvula, the gloris, and various parts of the tongue all work to help produce sound. There are passive articulators that remain still and active articulators that move to produce sounds. And I'm going to start with the vocal organs. And I'm going to start with the diaphragm, which is the layer of muscle between the lungs and the stomach, used especially to control breathing. And then lungs, either either of the two organs in the chest that you use for breathing. And then the bronchus, which is one of the two tubes that branch from the trachea, tube that carries air from the throat to the lungs and carry air into the lungs. And the trachea, which is the tube that carries air from the throat to the lungs. And then next is the larynx, which is also called voice box or hollow tubular structures connected to the top of the windpipe, the trachea. Air passes through the larynx on its way to the lungs. And the vocal cords, either of two folds of the mucous membrane that extend across the interior cavity of the larynx and are primarily responsible for voice production. And then the glories, either the space between the vocal cord and the arytenoid cartilage of one side of the larynx and those of the other side on structures that surround the space. And then the epiglottis is a small flat part of the back of the tongue that closes when you swallow to prevent food from entering the tube that goes to the lungs. And then the pharynx. This is the cone-shaped passageway leading from the oral and nasal cavities in the head to the esophagus and the larynx and the nasal passage. Your nasal passages, also referred to as sinuses, are hollow spaces in the hole in the skull around your nose, cheeks, and forehead. These cavities act as a filtration system that leads to your lower airways, throat, and act as a passages for mucus drainage. And the velum is a soft palate, also called palatal velum or muscular palate. In mammals, structures consisting of muscle and connective tissue that forms the roof of a posterior portion of the oral cavity. The next one is the oral cavity. It's also called vocal cavity or in human anatomy, orifice through which food, air enter to the body, and the mouth opens